want to first introduce some of Jane's family members that are here this evening to join us and give them an opportunity to speak if they like. We have Harry Millsap, Michelle Castles, Missy Good, and Mike Collins. If any of you would like to address the vigil here, please come forward.
Your name was first, Terry.
Go on, Terry, you can do it.
You can just stand there.
If anybody'll fall, it'll be me. I'm good at doing that.
Just stand there, Terry.
Stand right there, Mother.
You know she's gonna get up there.
She is named.
Yeah, do not get me on the end of this truck, down on my stomach. That would not be good. Okay. Gosh, it's so good to see everybody out here. So many people. So many people that my mother touched in one way or the other. And she, my mom, she did this tirelessly. It was day in and day out. If you ever called and got her answering machine, you would hear her telling you to leave a message because she was either out feeding or scooping poop or whatever. That was on her answering machine to leave a message. And, you know, believe it or not, that's what she was doing 90% of the time. But those were her babies. Each and every dog that came through here was my mother's dog. And my mother loved them just like she loved her own. A lot of them's come past through Mom and gone to their forever homes. And I don't know how Mama did it, because I get one, and here they'd all come, and I'd fall in love, and I couldn't let none of them go, and here I'd be. But Mama wanted to help, and she did. She did. And y'all, please keep her legacy going. Please. If it's a little donation, if it's dog food, if it's go to one of the shelters and scoop poop or whatever, you know, that would be her legacy, and you would continue in it. And thank you for being here.
Watch the thing that she doesn't trip over.
Ready or not? Yeah. Ready or not?
One more step. Watch out for the rope behind you, ma'am.
Okay.
It's under the.
It's the cover to my camera, and I'll get it after a while.
Jack, shine that flashlight down. Let's get,
You want me to hold your mug?
yeah,
Oh, I see it, sir. Here,
be
wanna
careful
hold the
because
candle?
it'll
Sir, I
spill
see
out.
it. Sir, sir, here.
I get it.
I got it.
You sure you wanna
Yes,
hold
sir.
the candle?
It's okay.
No.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Michelle, Missy, or Mike, would you like to speak?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, mercy. Thank you, sir.
Hope you're more graceful than I am.
I don't know how many of y'all were at the service today. Like I said, I'm not a public speaker. I come from the hills of Tennessee, and most of the time public speaking up there involves a half a jar of moonshine. You're publicly speaking to your neighbor. I want all of you to know that I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate all the volunteers, all the donors. I especially appreciate all the adoptive parents because Mom would adopt 4 out and take 10 in. You all really do not know how much this means to me to see this. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
Any other family member like to speak?
We got a couple of granddaughters over here.
Would like to speak on behalf of your grandmother?
We thank you all for
I have
everything.
no
And
idea.
like you
I
said, we're
didn't do
from
it.
Tennessee, so we didn't get to get up here much, you know, and we knew what she did was amazing. I have been blown away with, I mean, everywhere we
Hi,
went in
baby
town,
doll.
somebody knew her. So that's been pretty
Hey,
amazing.
you look like-
Absolutely.
You look
So
like
just-
one
we
that
wanna
needs
just
a
thank
spanking.
you all.
There you go. There's your spanking. There's your spanking. Okay. I don't know what you done, but you done something you need a spanking for.
Well, I know God has chosen that time to bring her to her heavenly home. Jane will be severely missed here. And while we mourn her loss, we can rejoice in the time that she was here and the many lives that she had touched. She found thousands of pets that had no future or forever home, changing lives of the pets and impacting the lives of thousands of families that adopted those dogs. Jane ran a no-kill, mandatory spay, neuter rescue that opened in 2009. And while she relentlessly worked and cared for these pets, it was a joint effort between her and an army of volunteers. First, I'd like to recognize Anita Moss.
Thank you.
It has been years since Jane's volunteering. Anita was here by Jane's side when she made the ultimate sacrifice to run back in a burning house trying to save more dogs. Anita's selfless devotion to rescues has been amazing. And I just want to recognize Anita for all she's done. Anybody who's been here has that was And now I'd like to recognize the many volunteers that have been here in all types of weather, all times of day, caring for rescues. The volunteers had only one reason for showing up, and that was for their love of cats and dogs, making them indeed special people. So if you're a volunteer, if you just raise your candle up, and you can see the army of volunteers.
God
that were-
bless you.
On that horrid morning, when the worst was realized that Jane was no longer with us, many stepped forward to ensure those rescues that remained were transferred to other shelters where they will have an opportunity to find forever home. I want to recognize Stephanie Berry's effort. As she arrived on the scene that tragic morning, she immediately started organizing and documenting the transfer of the remaining pets to other shelters. Her work was invaluable to the smooth evacuation of the remaining rescues. Stephanie, if you...
I'm right.
Stephanie was here that morning and took charge right away, documenting the pets, getting them out, made everything smooth. I thank you. I'm sure all the volunteers, and I know that they also appreciate all you've done.
Thank you, Stephanie.
And to the many rescue agencies that assist in picking up surviving pets, I applaud your acts of kindness and would like to recognize you at this time. The SOS Animal Shelter, SOS Animal Adoption Center and Enterprise, the Troy Animal Rescue Project, the Dothan Animal Shelter and Adoption Center, Save a Pet in Dothan, Wiregrass Humane Society, Ozark Dale County Humane Society. I hope I didn't forget any. But everybody came together that morning, and it just really showed solidarity and everybody's true love for the pets that were here. As we conclude this ceremony, I know Jane is looking down at us and smiling. She's probably somewhat surprised about all the accolades of praise we're giving her and how many of us had shed tears in her passing. Surrounded in heaven by thousands of pets in her life that have since passed, she knows she can rest in peace, knowing that those pets surviving the ordeal are now in safe places, awaiting the time when the family comes and gives them a forever home. Rest in peace, Jane. Your work here is finished. Your legacy will always be remembered. Thank you.
If anybody wants to say anything,
Yeah, but now, if anybody would
Go
like
right
to talk
ahead.
and share a memory with Jane,
Don't be shy.
Go on.
so we all have
You see,
memories that are
you had to
special.
watch me climb up there.
You don't-
Come on.
Or if you want to climb up,
No one had a harder time than I did today, so don't be shy.
I came over and helped Jane scoop food because I love cats. And actually, she was my inspiration for me to start my own rescue in Eufaula. And she was always so loving with the dogs and so caring. And one time I saw her down at Dothan at Animal Control, and she had come down to pick up a dog from them, and she had a carrier and something in it, and I said, "What have you got?" And she said, "Well, it's only 6 days old and it needs to be bottle fed, and I couldn't go off and leave it, so I brought it with me." And that was Jane. Whenever you'd see her, there was usually an animal in the vehicle with her, and she was always so kind and loving towards them. She never raised her voice. She never got upset that I ever saw with an animal. People are different things.
She lay into a human, but not an animal.
Exactly. She was a great lady.
Come on up.
everybody's got.
Sir?
My husband had a calico. It was a baby. And it got outside and it got lost. And one of my neighbors had found it. And thanks to Donna, she asked around the neighborhood if anybody had owned that cat. And she said, yeah. And it was ours. And it was severely sick, had pneumonia, had real bad infection. And I didn't have the money, and she took it and took it to vet, spent over $100 on it, and it had to be kept in one room because it was what was it, baby?
Quarantine?
Contagious.
Yeah, something like that. And since it couldn't be around another animal or anything like that, because I had other cats in my house, she kept it here until they got well. And eventually, I paid her back, and she thanked me. But if that hadn't been from her, I would have lost our little kitten. If that had been from Donna, we would have never found her. So I want to thank Donna and her for taking care of my cat, and taking the vet and paying for it so I would have my cat. Thank you.
I remember the first year that me and Casey were here. We were trying to feed these baby kittens that had lost their mom. Miss Jane made us a bottle to feed them and got us a rubber nipple for them. And we were just trying to feed the kittens. The kittens wouldn't eat. Miss Jane saw us. She said, "You're doing it wrong." Came over, took the kitten out of I think it was Casey's hands first. Took the bottle and got the kitten to eat. We were just watching. She gave it back to Casey. And Casey tried. The kitten wouldn't eat. She took the kitten on my hand, got it to eat. We were just in a maze, trying to do it. We were trying to do what she did. We did not succeed. Those cats liked her so much more, and she knew how to really do it. And then she always made it to where it wasn't always easy, but she got it done. That's for sure.
thank you.
Somebody else would like to please step forward?
I didn't really see Miss Jane a lot, but from what moments I did share with her, I know that she is a person you should respect. She did a lot. She was really kind-hearted, and I'm sure we all appreciate what she did. for all these animals that she assisted. I'd also like to, give another shout out to Miss Anita, because even when it was like really hard, she was here, she did work, she did a lot of work, she really cared for this place and the animals within it, and I think that's powerful, and she definitely deserves appreciation for all of the work she did. On the days that I did volunteer here, I really enjoyed myself and I felt happy. I mainly worked with cats, and they were all really sweet. Some of them were like kind of not as cooperative at the beginning, but as time went on, but everything just like I felt like a strong bond with them, and it's kind of hard to believe that they actually but they all really did deserve a happy home and stuff, so I hope the rest of the appreciation.
Somebody else? Yeah, we're all here because of one person. Like I said, she's touched each and every one of our lives in some way or manner. Like I said, we just all got to be real thankful for the time that we did have with her on this earth.
And it wasn't all fluffy kittens and puppies, because Miss Jane and Anita didn't hesitate to go chase a piglet.
Yeah.
I've done that a few times.
And ducks.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
And ducks.
Every animal touched her soul.
Yeah.
No matter what, even if it was dropped off that night and she had to take it to the vet and it had to be put down, and she would come back and every animal touched her soul.
And if she didn't, and I can tell you as far as law enforcement, if she didn't think law enforcement was doing enough, she'd be up on my door letting me know I wasn't doing enough.
That's my mother.
Yeah.
That is she.
I tried to explain her what the laws were, and she tried to explain it the way the law should be.
I'm gonna miss those midnight phone calls she calls.
Oh, yeah.
Us.
Harvey, it was mutual, because you appeared before the zoning board
Yes.
on her behalf, and you helped intervene with the sheriff's office and other people to ensure the stability of animals and stuff when tragedy hit. So I was surprised to see that you were not police chief any longer, because I thought you would be, but I'm glad you're here tonight, because I feel I have a shared existence between you and Jane and her.
Jane loved Harrison Harvey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those not familiar, at one point the city tried to close this place down, saying we weren't zoned to have a rescue here. At the time, the zoning officer worked for me. So I told him, I says, look, I want you to write up a proposal to get to the zoning board, and I'll walk before the board and present it. And they were saying, well, I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be done. They go, well, that's the way it's going to happen. Because last time I checked, my name's still on the door. It means I'm in charge. So, and we did. It got changed. And afterwards, we were told, Jane says, you'll never have to deal with that issue again if somebody trying to close you down because of your zoning issue.
I have a small story about Mr. Harvey. He called my mother one day. It was raining. It was terrible. They've been trying to catch a stray dog for weeks. Finally trapped it. My mother made me get in the vehicle with her. We went to the police department where it was in a kennel. The poor dog was malnourished, could barely stand up. It was pouring rain. I wound up carrying the dog to Mom's vehicle. I carried it from the vehicle into the house. And the dog was fed, cared for, gained weight. I called him Poppy because he was an old dog and I knew no one would probably adopt him. He stayed in the house with Mom and turned out to be one of the best little dog. Well, I say little dog. It wasn't no little dog. One of the best dogs that you could finally let him out. He'd roam around the yard, come back, scratch on the door. And that's probably one of my fondest memories, was standing in the pouring rain, cussing.
You were her.
That would have been me. And the words I got back was, "Shut up, we're doing this."
Exactly.
So that was, I appreciate you for that.
I've got another one for you. My family and I, we always vacation in Florida. And like I said, we stop here on the way down, we stop here on the way back. Well, I'll guarantee you, all of maybe one or maybe two trips that I didn't end up transporting the dog. Me and my husband said,
Now,
my daughter's coming through here. Oh.
I have addendum to that statement.
Yes.
The dog she transported home wound up at my house.
It did. Yep. And it's still there.
My mother called me one day. She said, "Mike, I'm 71 years old." She had a horse over here. She said, "I'm afraid that something's going to happen to me, that I'll not be able to take care of Blaze." Of course, I said, "Well, Mom, what are you going to do?"
Mistake.
She said, "You're coming to get him." Not the end of the story.
My husband went with him now.
Before we could get down here to get Blaze, there was another horse involved.
Yes, two horses now. Oh, yeah.
So, that was kind of exciting. The horse has been well cared for. I love them to death. One of them kicked me.
Oh, the night they brought her in, she kicked him. That is about the one time I saw my brother on his hands and knees trying to crawl out of that field.
Actually, when I figured out I wasn't coughing up blood, because she did catch me in the rib cage and broke 3 ribs.
She did. Good.
I got up and walked over to the horse and patted her on the nose and got her by the lip, peeled it up around her eyeballs, and we had a wonderful talk about kicking. Now, she has never tried to kick me again. She has tried to kick a couple of other people, but never me again. And I love the horses so much that I couldn't bear to be without them right now.
My brother is the horse whisperer. I'm here to attest to you. All he does is walk up and whispers in their ear. They do whatever he wants. Do not know how he does that, because that is not the case with me.
I was telling people earlier a story when we had some real bad storms coming through this area. I mean, the wind was blowing, rain was just pouring down real heavy. We lost power in a lot of the area. And as chief, I was driving around to check and see, if any lines were in the road, if anybody had wrecked and laying on the side. And as I drove past here, it was in the middle of the night, probably after midnight. I could see a flashlight walking from one side of the place to the other. She was out here checking on those dogs in that weather there. I told her, I said, Jane, what can I help you with? But she just could not rest in that house knowing that these dogs might be facing some bad weather or upset or something.
I have one more thing to say, and I will let y'all get along with all your conversations. We know Mom died going into the house after animals. I honestly believe that if somebody would have stopped her, she had survived and the animals perished, she would not have lived much longer with a broken heart.
Right.
Yep.
God bless you, Mama.
We love you, Miss Jane.
You want to come up here? Okay,
Come
we're
here,
going to do a
Chuck.
live feed. On the count of three, everybody just says first word.
First thing that comes to your mind from the heart about Miss Jane altogether.
Okay?
Whatever you like.
Everybody understand? Whatever you want to say about Jane, the count of three.
Checking.
Just hold it.
Okay.
Or maybe you should have held me instead.
You can come up the ladder.
Okay, get the ladder
Come
over
here.
I brought the ladder over here.
Come here.
I got a dang ladder. Why don't you tell me the Okay. I'm sorry, y'all.
Okay, she's doing a live feed. So. Okay, count of three. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
Jane.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Anybody else would like to say anything? You want to stay and
Jillian.
mingle and share stories? That's fine.
Thank for you guys coming out. You have no idea what it means to me and my sister. Knowing that Mama was loved is a blessing. Thank you all again.
We all just have to.
Harvey, she would like to speak.
Yeah. Go.
I just want to say, I know we've all talked about how much Jane loved the animals. And by God, we all know someday she was hard with the people.
Amen.
But she truly was a caregiver at heart. I remember multiple occasions when we'd do a rescue together and she'd find out somebody, they weren't feeding their cats because they didn't have enough food. And she took her last money and went to the commissary to make sure they had food too. It didn't work out, but she found a lady who was homeless and she moved her into the house. And, we took with Harvey actually, we took a little Pomeranian Harvey brought us that was so bad. And Jane and I spent hours shaving and clipping this dog and clipping his nails, and come to find out the man was being abused himself and it was his dog.
Yeah.
And she fought to make sure that he got his dog back because it was his and he needed that dog. So as much as she loved the animals, as much as she loved anything with four legs, it didn't matter what it was, she loved her people too. even on the days that she wasn't the easiest to deal with, even on the days, by God, I've been on the other side of that wrath. And I've been on the other side of those midnight phone calls for somebody else who got her wrath. But she did everything she could for anybody she saw who was less fortunate or who needed it. Or she truly was an absolute blessing to everybody who came in contact with her. There's so many of us who've been out here, who've been talking over the last day, over the last couple of days, who wouldn't be the same people we are if she hadn't have touched our lives in one way or another. For me personally, this place was home the whole time I lived here. We moved 4 years ago, and I drove back this morning because your mama meant that much to so many of us. And there's so many of us who wouldn't be the same people. We wouldn't have our babies. We wouldn't be involved in what we're involved in if we didn't have her influence. And she took people under her wing, and she loved them. She was hard, but she loved all of us, and she loved us enough to keep us straight. Like Clarence said today, with that finger wagging and stuck in your face, I don't know how many of us have seen this one, or if it was just me who got that, because I got a lot of it. But she did. She loved everybody, and she did anything she could for anybody who was less fortunate, whether they were two-legged, whether they were four-legged.
Or no legs.
She was a caregiver at heart, and she truly touched so many people.
My mother was, how can I put this delicately? My mother was a tough woman.
She was. I tell you what.
However, she was fair.
Yep.
If she thought you needed corrected, you were corrected. And to be honest with you, if more people were like that in this world, I think it'd be a lot better place.
You never questioned where you stood. You never questioned what she thought, and you never questioned how she thought you should do it. And there's not many people. It's a dying breed, and she worked harder than anybody I've ever met in life. She could outwork me when she was 50 years older.
I just wanted to say one thing. I don't want y'all to remember her by what you see today. You need to remember the 75-year-old woman laying under a trailer trying to get puppies out that didn't want to come. You need to remember her after her back surgery, stubborn with her back brace on in those kennels trying to tell you how to do your work. You need to remember her after her carpal tunnel surgery, going in with a 130-pound American Bulldog who was barking and showing her teeth at her. And she said, "You and I gonna be friends tonight." And she would go in. Remember her by that and carry it on in your heart. And if you see an animal in need, pick it up and think, this is for Jane. Save it, get it spayed and neutered, and find it a good home. Don't just think about it. I know it was tragic, but we need to carry it on. That's what she would want. She fought until there was none. For the ones that we can save, she's up there waiting for them.
And I just want to thank Jane. I keep girl cats here in Delville. Yes, I'm that lady that everybody chases and says, don't do that. There's been the library dog. It's been loose in Delville for, 2 months now, Anita? Yeah. Anita sent me pictures last week. You see this red line in the distance. That little red line was Jane laying on the ground, showing passiveness for this dog that's trying to trust her. Thanks to Jane and Anita, with one picture sending me, we've got her. My cats can no longer have to run now. They can eat their own food. And true, Jane will stop traffic for a pig. She did.
She would stop traffic for a possum.
So why am I happy? That's why I loved your mom. Because she was just like me. And like most of us, that we would do anything for an animal. And she gave her absolute ultimate sacrifice, as we all knew she would. We all knew she would go this way. Really, when you think about it, can you imagine her going any other way?
She wasn't gonna retire.
No.
Oh,
She
she
had more
retired
energy than I did.
15 years ago.
I mean, I don't know how many of us said, Jane, at what point are you done? Never.
No, she's never done.
It was her life.
She's
If,
still not
if
done.
she didn't have this, she would not have lived.
It wasn't what she did, it was who she was. This was who she was. It was in her blood. It was...
But she rooted for the underdog. Enterprise Police Department called me when they have neglect cases. When the court goes through and the dogs are immediately released, they call me to find a rescue. First thing I did was call Jane. I'll take them. They've never been socialized. I'll take them. Bring them to me. They're dirty. They've never had a bath in their life. Bring them to me. And 2 dogs that were on the side of a house for years and years and years and years in a crate together. Never had any human contact. She says, bring him to me. The white dog never had any socialization whatsoever. Don't worry about it. I'll get him. And she did. So anything that was a challenge that other rescues would shy away from, Jane said, bring it.
She was ornerier than a dog.
But you can't be a rescuer without being hard-headed and soft-hearted. That was Jane. As a matter of fact, one of the dogs that she saved was a mutual friend, Kat, that was in the hospital.
BB.
That was one of the dogs that she got out of this house. Kat is still so weak she can't take care of BB. One of the volunteers that were here that day took BB. But that was one of the dogs that she grabbed from that house and saved. She's a hero. Bottom line, she's a hero.
I remember the first time I ever met Jane. It was at the Ozark Animal Shelter about 3 years ago. And we were in there shopping for a puppy because I've always adopt, don't shop. So we were in there looking for a puppy, and the one that we had met before wasn't available. So I said, okay, well, what about those puppies down there at the road in the kennel? And Wanda said, well, there aren't any. And then here comes this woman walking through the door, and she pokes her head in and she says, you're right, there aren't any because they're in my car. And she's like, I'm Jane. And I was like, hi, Jane, I'm Deborah. And she said, do you want one? And I said, we would love one. We still have that dog, and she is stubborn to a fault. And I took down her number because she said, she's like, that's what I do. So I had her number saved for 3 years in my phone, and I never really had a cause to use it. And then she said, you've got a rescuer's heart. She's like, and you'll see it someday. So 3 years later, I'm driving down the road, and there's movement around a garbage bag, and I hit the brakes because I saw a tail. And I go over there, put my hazards on, and I lift up this bag, and there's just puppies. There's 7 or 8 of them. And I looked everywhere I could for a mom. There wasn't one. And then I was like, what do I do? So I called my husband, and he said, don't you dare. And I said, I can't leave him here. It's not going to happen. So I dared. They ended up at my house in my bathtub. And I sent him a picture, and he's like, what are we going to do? And I was like, I'm not sure, but they weren't staying there. So and then I thought I have this phone number. And on a chance, I called it. And she answered. And I said, you may not remember me. I said, I got a puppy from you at the animal shelter a few years back. And she's like, oh, you're that short girl. And so I told her, I said, well, I've got these puppies here. I said, I have no idea how old they are. They look maybe 4 weeks old. And she said, where are you at? And I was like, I'm in Ozark. And she's like, just tell me where you want to meet, and I will be right there. And so that was the first litter of puppies that Jane and I had exchanged words over. And then again, not too terribly long after that, and ever since then, even if I couldn't take it in because I didn't have any space available, or if I was full of fosters, Jane was my first phone call, and she never turned one away. And I was telling my husband when I heard what happened, and I was just devastated over the phone. I called him, and he said, I don't know who you're talking about. And I was like, yes, you do. And I said, she's the lady, every time I meet her with supplies for puppies or paper towels, it's usually outside the Ozark gate. I said, I sit there and talk to her forever and you can't get me on the phone. And he's like, okay, I know who that is. And
That was the crazy lady with all the dogs down the street.
yes, yes. And not any time when she pulled up in that van did she not have another dog with her. And as soon as we got done talking, it was like serendipity. Her phone would ring and off she went again. To, you know, on to the next one. It was on to the next one and on to the next one. And I told my husband, I said, she's got more energy than two 20-year-olds. And I don't know how she does it. Exactly. And I wanted to be here tonight because she meant something to me. She's the reason I do what I do with the puppies and the fostering. And you can't afford to get your dog spayed or neutered, call me. You know, if you need puppy food, dog food. I don't do cats, I'm allergic. But she's the reason that I do what I do. And she was a driving force, and if she can do it, anybody can.
I remember my first meeting with Jane was in 2010. I had just moved and I was working with a lady that did TNR. She was showing me the ropes. And Miss Jane had just opened up, so I came up here to volunteer, not knowing that it was a shelter, but it was still her house. So I walk up the driveway, I look around, nobody around, so I take my happy butt inside because I see kitty cats all in the kennels. I play with the little kitty cats, I go in the cattery, play with the cats. I hear somebody, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Try to explain. My name is Jackie, I'm here to help. Sorry, what, you know, it's my house. You don't just walk it. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Well, it was all good. And I volunteered for a very short time. I really am ashamed that I did not help her more often because it's what I do also. In the past 3 days, I have learned something very important, and that is take the time, just stop for a second, feel the thoughts, look at things from different perspectives, feel the love. She was all about the love, and I just realized that, and I'm so ashamed of it. What an amazing woman. And I did not have the privilege of knowing. But her message must go on. She did something so important. So important. And we need to carry on and keep doing it. Because that's what she was. Anita, God bless you. All y'all who do rescue, and God bless you.
Go ahead, honey.
Go ahead. You have something to say?
Yeah. I don't know how she did it. All the yard sales that she had, I don't know where she got the stuff, but I remember all the yard sales that she had. She filled that up with stuff. She had stuff all the way down to the street, and I don't know how she got there and put all that stuff out, even in the rain sometimes. And I'd like to thank everybody that would buy stuff from her from the yard sales to help with donations to take care of the animals, to help her, and I just don't know how she done it all the time, all that yard sale stuff. I thank everybody that would buy stuff from her that help with the donations to the yard sale stuff to help her take care of all those animals. She was a wonderful woman.
I think we've all seen tonight just how special Jane was, and how many people she's touched. I think we'll go through life very often, meet someone with that caliber of a person. Again, I'm just thankful to have known her. And like I say, I think she's looking down now, just smiling. Just probably amazed at how many people have showed up to show her praise. Again, thank you all for coming tonight.
Or yelling, go out and rescue another dog.
Yep.
Harvey, thank you for doing the same and starting the program off.
For being her friend. You are a good hardwood. Yes. You're a good friend. My name is Ruth, and I've met Miss Jane years and years ago. And first time I met her was helping with another rescue I was involved with that needed some dog food. And then later I met her at the spay and neuter clinic. This lady was walking in with a handful of leashes with dogs, and I'm wondering how she can do this. And later on I came to volunteer out here. And as I came in to volunteer, it was at a time where people were PCSing, and kids that were volunteering were going off for summer break. So Jane and I, hand in hand for a few months, it seemed like forever, we're doing cats and dogs. And being OCD as I am, I would be here like 5 hours a day, scrubbing down kennels and taking care of the cats. And then I thank God that Stephanie came along. Where is she at?
Right here.
Because that meant I could take a break. But Miss Jane had endless energy. And the one thing that I learned is, spay and neuter your pets.
Amen.
And don't be afraid to step up.
Thank you. On our event, Julie asked that we read out something. So I'm going to read it to you from her. The reason, to you from all your rescue dogs. I would have died that day if not for you. I would have given up on life if not for your kind eyes. I would have used my teeth in fear if not for your gentle hands. I would have left this life believing that all humans don't care. Believing there is no such thing as fur that isn't matted, skin that isn't flea-bitten, good food and enough of it, beds to sleep on, someone to love me, to show me I deserve love just because I exist. Your kind eyes, your loving smile, your gentle hands, your big heart saved me. You saved me from the terror of the pound, soothing away the memories of my old life. You have taught me what it means to be loved. I have seen you do the same for other dogs like me. I have heard you ask yourself in times of despair, why you do it? When there's no more money, no more room, no more homes. You open your heart a little bigger, stretch the money a little tighter, make just a little more room to save one more just like me. I tell you with the gratitude and love that shines in my eyes, in the best way I know how, reminding you why you go on trying. I am the reason, the dogs before me are the reason, as are the ones who came after. Our lives would have been wasted, our love never given. We would die if not for you. Rest in peace, Miss Jane. I know you're taking care of Whiskey for me, once again.
Has that got an author? Or did she write it?
I don't know.
It's beautiful.
I don't know if we can see him. Shine the candles a little closer. This is one that Jane saved out of the fire. Little scamp. Hi, buddy. Yeah.
There we go. Now you can see.
He's alive because of Jane. You know. what's going on. Poor Scampy. He was in the house with her. Oh, she saved him.